What experience have you had with communicating with parents and carers? What strategies would you use to involve parents or carers in the educative process for students in your class? In my role as a kindergarten teacher and working in childcare, I was required to communicate with parents or carers and families during drop offs and pick up times. This was to discuss their daily routines or any reminders or main events that happened in the day. In my current role on Permission to Teach, I also communicate through an online platform called Seesaw, where I communicate with parents. I send out reminders or events, or um, if something important happened in that day. This was pretty similar to Story Park, which I was also familiar with from working in childcare. To include parents and carers in the educative process, I I have held parent teacher meetings to discuss students' individual learning goals and to give parents a voice in their students' learning or things that they would like implemented in the classroom. I also believe that it is important to communicate that you are approachable by giving out your perhaps your email address, or as I said, Seesaw contact, so parents feel comfortable approaching you or contacting you. However, I also implement a communication book which is sent home with students for parents that may not have internet access. This just allows opportunity for all parents or carers to communicate with me without having that accessibility barrier of internet. I also have in the past invited parents into the classroom or the childcare setting so that they can have a glimpse of what's happening in the day-to-day routine, and provides an opportunity for them to ask questions as well openly, and I guess spend time with their child in an education setting as well to see how they could be implementing some of these strategies at home to support their learning. What strategies have you found to be effective in managing classroom behaviour or challenging behaviours, and how would you establish these strategies in your classroom? Again, within my role as a kindergarten teacher and working in childcare as an educator prior to that, and again in my current role is on Permission to Teach in a special school, I have found that forming a close but professional relationships with the students is invaluable in gaining their trust and allowing them to know that you're there to support their needs and that they can approach you if there is anything happening at home or outside the classroom that may be affecting their learning or how they may be acting within the classroom. This can be a way to sort of stop these behaviors, I guess, before they happen. I feel that students, well, in my classroom, I have implemented a sort of democratic approach where, as a class, we collectively, at the start of the year, create our own set of classroom rules or boundaries, I suppose. This allows students to have a voice in what they believe would be respectful behaviors in the classroom, and because it's coming from them, they have a personal connection to those rules and a need to follow them. This can then be displayed in the classroom so that the teacher or I can then refer back to it in times of need when things directly relate to these rules or they're not being followed. And then you can sort of say things like, remember this, just a reminder, we created this rule together. Do you remember what that rule is? And you can sort of draw back that this was actually done collectively with the student. I believe that incorporating the zones of regulation and teaching students strategies to support and manage their own emotions in, I guess, times where behaviors are challenging is really important as well. Sometimes these behaviors are a way of seeking attention, and the students don't care if it's negative or positive attention that they're receiving. So I think it's important to really draw on the positive behaviors that you're noticing, to continue these positive behaviors, and I guess to provide positive praise in the class and rewarding or recognizing positive behaviors with awards, principal awards, things like that. Again, circling back to the zones of regulation, I think it's really important for students to be able to regulate their own emotions too. And if you have that close relationship as well, you can really do this in a supportive manner, where they trust you, and you can sort of talk through what zone they might be in and strategies that they can actually use to support themselves. So they might identify in that moment that they might need to go for a walk, get a drink of water. They might need in that moment to play with a fidget toy to take their mind off something. They might need some time in a quiet corner, a quiet zone, with reading books and quiet activities, or to listen to some music for a little bit. So I think this can be a good way to diffuse like heightened circumstances, and bring a sense of calm back into the classroom. I also find that setting these clear expectations from the start of the school year is very important. Then you really need to be pulling up students every single time they are not meeting the expectations in the classroom. And you could then refer back to the displayed classroom rules. I think this is really important so that later in the year you'll experience less challenging behaviors, because that expectation has been set and students know what's expected of them. I have also implemented seating plans, as well as on the floor when you're on the mat, having dots with numbers, and students with additional needs are provided. Prioritize sitting at the front so that they can see the board, as well as being really strategic with who students are sat next to. Some students you will very soon get distracted with sitting next to their friends, don't work well with particular students, so that's a really good way to prevent challenging behaviors before they also occur. And I think just redirecting behavior in the moment as well, but not in a way that is disrespectful or calling out the student. So in the past I have sort of simply said the student's name, but I think I'm trying to steer away from this sort of approach, to be more respectful in dealing with these behaviors. And so I think a more respectful way is simply re-engaging that student by asking them a specific question so that they are brought back to the learning, and I guess you're diffusing whatever behavior was being displayed there. What experience have you had in working as part of a professional team in a school setting? How would you make a positive contribution to the work of a teaching team in your teaching area and preferred curriculum learning area? I'll again draw on my previous roles working in education teams. Since leaving school, I have worked continuously as part of a team. I've worked as a teacher aide, where I was working in the classroom with obviously the qualified teacher in the room who I was supporting. I have worked as a childcare educator and kindergarten teacher, where again I was working with other educators within the room, and I guess working as part of a team is really invaluable to bring your ideas together and ensure that everyone has a voice in what's occurring in the classroom. And especially in my role on Permission to Teach as the classroom teacher now, I think it's important to hold great respect for your teacher aides in being education professionals as well, that may have been in the industry or the profession for a lot longer than I have. So I think that it's really important to see them as a really valuable tool to be listening to their voice in the classroom and letting them have a say in what may be occurring in the classroom, to keep that sense of inclusion and that everyone holds responsibility in the environment. And I think, yeah, it's really important not to have that perspective of I'm the teacher, you're the teacher aide. I think it's really important to have that collaboration where you can bring your ideas together as one and make one fluent curriculum. I think that's one thing that was very important in a childcare setting with a larger group of educators, was hearing everyone's voices, everyone has a say, and collaborating, but bringing it together to have one idea that's flush and fluent. I think that's really important in the classroom for student learning and success. Coming into your school, I intend on bringing a positive aura and welcoming and being approachable for others in the school. And I suppose me being a new member, you really need to welcome everyone with a smile, and I guess you're still finding your place in the school. So I think it's really important to build those relationships early on, for the sake of your own support as well. I think collaborating with colleagues and other professionals really grows your own knowledge and understanding. Taking in other people's voices and perspectives can really improve your own teaching practices, which I think is invaluable for teaching professionals in growing, I guess, it's professional development, really, growing our knowledge to be better, always wanting to be better. I think there's a lot of times as a teacher that you do have to work as part of a team in the planning process, like people in your cohort, and again, moderation. And I have recently been exposed to those things, working closely with the team in my current role. I intend to make a positive contribution within the school, whether that may be volunteering my time for extracurricular activities, taking on extra roles in, for example, sports carnivals, where your role goes outside of a teaching scope, and that may be timing races, or that may be writing down scores. I'm very open and willing to be a part of the school community in that way. And I find that, especially in this time for teachers, it's really important to be supportive of other teaching professionals within your school and really supporting the well-being of the people around you. There may be a day where teachers will need, or your colleagues will need, more support than usual, and I am very willing to step up and allow them to have a break in that sense, whether that would be picking up an extra duty. I think it's really important to be looking out for our fellow teachers. And I thank you so much for your time today, and I really hope that you consider me for this role. I think I'd be a really great and suitable fit for your school. I'm very excited to potentially have this opportunity to begin my or expand my teaching career in your school, and adding to my professional knowledge and experience. And I'm sure that you'll find a perfect fit for your school. It sounds really wonderful. Thank you very much.